All right, guys, so based on, I guess, starting using the Kahuna's application and now getting a lot of people that are tracking on the application, it has certainly brought to light that I think there needs to be another video and another in-depth explanation of how to track appropriately. Because, and I mean, this is certainly not chastisement or anything like that at all, because I'm going to be uploading this on YouTube and I'm going to be uploading it on the Vault in the Kahuna's app. It basically just speaks to the fact that a lot of people think they know how to track, but the reality is that oftentimes when I'm getting check-ins and I'm looking at the check-in sheets, and when I'm looking at now being able to look at your actual food diaries, there are a lot of discrepancies in terms of actually budgeting correctly and hitting those numbers perfectly. So what I'm going to be doing here is recording my screen once again, and hopefully just putting that on the screen so you can see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Okay, so I'm opening the tracking app and I'm going to use tomorrow as a frame of reference. And I keep telling you guys, this is the way that you should be doing it. You need to plan in advance. If you do not plan in advance, then you're going to track as the day goes along, right? If you have a budget, a monetary budget, X amounts of dollars or X amounts of rand or whatever currency you work in when you're watching this, and you know that that budget needs to be spent on certain things, and then you go out to the mall and you just buy things ad hoc, then all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh my God, I've gone over my budget and I didn't buy all the things that I needed to, and now I've spent all my money and I have nothing more to spend. What do? Well, the same thing goes here. If you don't plan for it, you're either going to go over your numbers or you're going to go under your numbers, and then it's going to be the end of the day. And there's no way to, at least there's some way to catch up if you fall under, but there's no way that you can uneat something that you've eaten, just in the way that there's no way you can unspend something that you've already spent money on, unless you return it. But we certainly can't do that with food, right? So you'll see, and I'm just using my macros as a frame of reference. So my current macros, 240 grams of protein, 320 grams of carbs, and 55 grams of fat, okay? So my pre-training meal is very, very straightforward. I have baby rice, 80 grams. I have my SSA whey protein, 55 grams. I have almond butter, 15 grams. And I usually have some frozen berries of some description, blackberries, 100 grams, okay? Then during my workouts, I have the animal aminos, okay, juiced aminos, I have 20 grams of that, okay? Post-training, usually I'll have an omelet. Okay, so large eggs. This is a verified entry, which means that it is verified to be accurate. So this is another point. Make sure that the entries that you're using are either verified, so you know that they're accurate, or check the entries versus the label on the food that you're using. The last thing you want to be doing is tracking as you should, and then still being inaccurate because the database has an error of entry. Okay, then egg whites. All right, 150 grams of egg whites. We'll have a cinnamon raisin bagel. One bagel, there we go. And then I usually have spinach and mushrooms or peppers, but I'll just say mixed vegetables, 50 grams of that. Okay, cool. Then my meal 3 is usually a prepared meal by Fit Foods. all right, which I'll find in my recents. That's also a very nice hack, is if you're eating a lot of the same foods regularly, which you should be doing for linearity and equating for sodium and fiber, etc., then it's going to be under your recents and it's much easier to keep track of. Okay. Usually some fruit here, so I'll have a banana, usually like a large banana. There we go. My meal 4 will essentially be, and pay attention to this, because my meal 4 will essentially be a carbon copy of my first meal of the day. So I just click copy to date, today, and then I put that as meal 4, done. Okay. The only difference here is I generally, I forgot that I was tracking for the next day. So copy to date, tomorrow, and then it's meal 4. Cool, so that's been successfully copied. The only difference here is I bring down the carbohydrates a little bit. And then my final meal of the day is usually the one that changes the most. Tomorrow, what I'm probably going to be having is something like these Triggs baked chips. I'm going to be having a large white wrap. I'm going to be having mixed vegetables, and my protein source is going to be the pre-made chicken fillets, barbecue chicken fillets, which hopefully, there we go, 230 grams of those. Okay, now I've logged all my food. What do we do now? Now we look at my totals. Okay, as you can see, I'm 20 grams over in protein, I'm 40 grams under in carbohydrates, and I'm 3 grams over in terms of fat. So let me go immediately and address the protein. I'm just going to bring down my serving of whey in my first meal, all right? And I'm going to bring down my serving of chicken in my final meal, okay? Now we go back and look at those values and we see, all right, cool. Now my protein is exactly where it needs to be. Now I need to bring down my fat a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease my whole eggs to 1, okay? Now I'm a little bit under in fat, so I'm just going to push up my almond butter serving a little bit. And now we're pretty much perfectly in line. And now I just need to increase my carbohydrates. So I can increase my cream of rice over here. Obviously, as I'm trying to increase carbohydrates, I don't want to be increasing proteins and fats on top of that, because then I'm going to have to make other adjustments. So I'm trying to increase my carbohydrates via food that is not going to be super dense in fats or protein. All right. So I'm getting there. I'm at 304 grams of carbs. I need to be at 320. So I'm going to push up the Triggs. All right. Now I'm at 311. I'm going to add in a little bit of fruit to my breakfast. 100 grams of strawberries. And now I'm at 317 out of 320, which is perfectly acceptable. 239 out of 240 protein, 56 out of 55 fat. That is how I manage the day. The only way that I can do that, if I'm trying to do that as the day goes along, I'm going to reach the end of the day and I'm going to realize, oh my God, I'm over certain things, I'm under other things. How do I make those adjustments? You can't. So it needs to be tracked ahead of time. And just as you are managing a financial budget, when you see that you are potentially going to overspend, oh my God, I'm 30 grams over in carbohydrates. What do? I want to have this thing. That means that I'm going to have to cut back on something else. I'm 10 grams over in fat. Oh, that means that I'm going to have to cut back on something else in order to balance that fat budget. Okay, so that is the way that tracking essentially works. And yes, in the initial stages, it is complicated, but please remember that for anything that we do, whether it be following a meal plan or whether it be tracking, there is going to be some element of compromise. The compromise in this scenario is it requires a little bit of planning and a little bit of effort, but it gives you the flexibility to make this process sustainable. Following a meal plan makes things very easy and straightforward and convenient because there's no thought or planning that goes into it. You just need to execute, okay? But it doesn't give you any flexibility, and then you're tied into a meal plan forever. Now, I'm open to either of those scenarios. Really, you need to ask yourselves and tell me what is going to be the most viable for you, and don't think what is going to be the most viable for you right now. Think what is going to be the most viable for you in the long term. Okay, now, anyone that needs to watch this video, I'm adding it to the vault. I'm also uploading it to YouTube. Any questions, please let me know, because accuracy of your tracking is of paramount importance. Your nutritional protocols are everything. Almost all of you love training. That's not going to be a challenge. You love training, you love pushing yourself in the gym. The stumbling block that most people have is being consistent and accurate with their numbers. So if you have questions about this, let me know. And then please, finally, the most important component, or one of the most important components to this is I have tracked everything that I'm going to eat, okay? Don't forget that there are additional calorie sources potentially. If you are cooking in oils, if you are adding in sauces or condiments or salad dressings or sugar or whatever to your tea or coffee or calorific beverages, those also need to be taken into account. Everything which contains calories needs to be tracked and needs to be tracked accurately. Does it suck? Somewhat. It only really sucks in the beginning stages when you're getting used to it and you're learning how to do it. But at the end of the day, it is a compromise that most of us should be willing to make to achieve these body composition goals and do it with a certain degree of flexibility and a huge degree of sustainability. Okay,